Hello again and welcome everyone to chapter 14, Great Trees. This chapter kind of goes along with the other chapter 8 on super cities, and let me get into that first real quick. The whole concept of a super city is efficiency, and once you reach a certain level of efficiency, you end up, well, I believe I said it in the chapter itself, but if you have centralized super cities all over the United States, let's say for instance, and all the populations move into these really, really dense central locations, you end up with a larger amount of space given back to nature and whatnot, right? So, what happens is not everyone is really going to want to come and live in these central cities. And someone kind of mentioned this to me, which I mean, obviously I would because I designed them, but I mean, I'd like to get out and everything every once in a while also. But if you are one of those people that doesn't really want to be cooped up in a big dome and you don't really mind bugs or weather or natural disasters, that kind of stuff, not that it's wrong or bad or anything, but if you're just one of those people that can't be cooped up, or you just want to take a break from the high tech life or something like that, then there's always other options for people out there. And this is one of the options that I'd really like to create. And what it is, like I said in the beginning, it's a great tree. And there will be several. This is a picture that I've kind of sketched out of it right here. This is a great tree, and you can see it's kind of it's a lot bigger than a normal tree, which is down here. Where did it go? There it is. It's a lot bigger than a normal tree, and it has all these facilities and different types of things in it so that people can actually stay in here and work in here and all that other kind of stuff. And what the point of that is there's many different reasons for having these trees. One of them is very straightforward, very clear cut, and that's search and rescue. If someone gets lost or stranded or injured out in the woods, this would be a signpost or an outpost for people to have a direction to go to. It would be a point where they could call to for help, anything like that, sort of stuff like that. So, not only that, but the trees themselves, I don't know if you saw in this image right here, but they actually have at the very top of them a place for a helicopter. And they're also, you can probably have like a shifting spectrum out here, to have a little platform that comes out to have a helicopter land and then it can come back in or something like that. And what that'll help with is tracking down people that have been injured or lost or something like that, because you're going to end up with a lot more wildlife and a lot less people out there to be able to patrol it. And another thing that these great trees will be able to keep an eye on is animal population, animal migration, anything like that. I'm sure all of you guys have seen the movie The Incredibles and their little robotic birds that they build. This is just a stupid sketch of a bird, but basically what you can do is, we can try to do is build a mechanical bird that actually flies around, and that might be pretty difficult just because it's hard for us to build things that help us fly around. But and what we can do is build hundreds and hundreds of these little birds and have them, roost and recharge and download all the visual data that they've accumulated or transmitted via radio frequency or whatever back to the roost or the great tree or whatever that they happen to be stationed at, I guess. And we can use that to track down people. We can use that to track down or have an early warning system for wildfires, find missing hikers, track animal migration patterns. One of the big problems in this country now is actually feral hogs. Not a lot of people realize that, but wild hogs were introduced into the United States a while back, either on purpose or by accident, and they've just grown horrendously out of, like, they're not really supposed to be here naturally, so they're a really big menace when it comes to things like farms or small children, small pets, anything like that. This kind of technology can be used in order to hunt down and control the population for these feral hogs. If you watch a show about wild boars or anything like that, which I have. I thought it was pretty hilarious. I don't remember what the name of it was. I think hog something. But one of the things that all the people every time say is the best we can do is control the population, get them out of the populated areas, this and that. Basically, they all kind of just give up on the fact that it's ever going to be possible to get out these displaced creatures. And I personally think that that's not true, because with a technology like this, the mechanical birds can be used to track down and relay information to hunters, trappers, anything like that. And I really think it would allow us to be able to remove all the species, not necessarily kill all of them, obviously, but remove them and take them back to where their natural habitat should be, or raise them in farms, or whatever it is that they need to do to keep these animals contained. One of the ways that they'd be able to do that, obviously, the mechanical birds, and they'd have little HD cameras in their eyes, and they'd have little tranquilizing or marking darts or whatever. They'd probably have like one of each, one like tag dart and one tranquilizer dart in each bird, but there'd be hundreds of them, so if they ever needed help from one of the other birds, I mean, more tranq darts or whatever, they could just send for backup, I guess, something like that. These large trees would actually be set up on a grid pattern throughout the United States and other countries that decided to adopt the technology. And it would basically be set up on longitudinal and latitudinal lines. So it'd be just this huge grid in between the super cities with, I'd say you'd probably want to start out maybe one every 10 miles, probably more. Well, you'd start out one like every 100 miles, and then you'd try to increase it to like one every 50 miles. You'd put another one in the middle of each, and then you'd try to one every 25, something like that. You'd end up doing it that way so that you can eventually make it more dense, because you're not going to just go out there and build millions of these things overnight. Eventually, you're going to come up with a system where you can manufacture and distribute them pretty easily, just drop them or whatever. But I'd like to get a little bit into the size of these things. Natural trees are limited in their size basically by the amount of water that they can pull up to the tops of their tree of themselves, the trees. And that limit is usually around 450 to 500 feet tall. And these trees would obviously, since you would want to be able to see them, you would most likely have to make them at least twice that high. So I'd say probably about 1,000 feet. I personally would like them to be bigger. That's just my opinion, only because I'd like people to actually be able to live in these things and work in these things. Obviously, you need to maintain the birds, you need to maintain any sort of weather data, weather systems, anything like that. And I said that before in one of my other videos about how I would collect weather data and stuff like that. And this is one of the ways that I would do that is use this network of trees to collect weather data, just to make the weather systems and the weather predictions a lot more accurate, a lot more sophisticated. The temperatures and everything like that would be recorded in all these different places. Like I said, pre-warnings for forest fires, everything like that. One of the cool things about these is that kind of things like this kind of already exist, kind of in theory, I guess. The radio towers that kind of have look like trees are around not everywhere, but in some places. So there's already something similar, but one cool thing about these is that they would be large enough to where all the leaves that would basically cover up all of the man-made looking parts of it could all be solar panels. And the cool thing about that is that if you have an entire tree that's just surrounded with solar panels, and you can make them green too, just because, I mean, it would look like a tree, obviously. It would hopefully be self-sufficient, and you can adopt a lot of the technology that's in the super cities with the recycling of the waste products and whatnot to form methane, anything like that. You could actually set them up on like a grid system underground at some point. That would probably take a whole lot of work and a whole lot of time, but I mean, it's possible. And around the trees, you could set up zip line systems to get down faster. You could store ATVs or dirt bikes or anything like that if you need, like, for search and rescue operations. Obviously, there'd be a helicopter, but you never know when you need more manpower on the ground, or if it's just something that happened real close to you or something like that. They'd have their own storage, they'd have their own little medical facility, like a Another huge thing that I believe that these would possibly be able to help, and it's related to the early warning system with forest fires, and that is lightning strikes. I believe that we can develop a system, hopefully, to store and obviously redirect to these lightning strikes. And I believe lightning strikes are one of the, if it's not, if a forest fire isn't started by a person, I believe lightning strikes are the main culprit for starting forest fires or something like that. If it's not, then don't worry about it. Just forget that I said it. But another source of energy that these things could use is, like I said, lightning strikes. And one of the problems with that is that it's just this huge amount of energy to absorb all at once. So normal lightning towers, really, they just direct the energy just to ground so that it doesn't do any damage to anything else. But hopefully we can figure out like a capacitor bank system that could take all the energy in right away, because I know we can emit a whole bunch of energy right away, but I don't know about taking it all in. Usually with large capacitor banks, you have to charge them up pretty slowly, I believe. So to sum it all up, for the people that don't want to live in a huge city, you could always get back to nature, get stationed out at one of these great trees all across the United States or anywhere in the world. You can use the birds to track migration patterns, to find lost hikers, to rescue them, injured hikers, anything like that. You could use the tops of them as helicopter pads for any sort of search and rescue or any sort of transport or anything that you wanted to do over there. You use them as weather stations for collecting weather data, and it's basically just a whole bunch of things. And it kind of seems kind of useless at this point, but with all those things, I think it'd be pretty useful, in my opinion. Just eventually something to get it out there, and to, 'cause people might get a little bit stir crazy in the big cities, so you never know. All right, thanks again for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, bye.